In the beginning, there was the aggro player on the rocky mountaintops. The aggro player would rely solely on red mana to hit fast and hard. But, as time passed, the aggro player realized their direct burn and dinky dorks only get so far before flailing and falling behind. And so, the aggro player went to the forests and found a wellspring of green mana. This green mana energized them to not only make their dinky dorks, well, less dinky, but stronger, more formidable, more value-generating than ever before. However, the aggro player, now Gruul, would still languish. He had the fury, he had the endurance, yes, but he lacked the drive. The potential to make his plays flow together like a stream of consciousness, like a roaring waterfall. I found him in the jungles off Tanzia, and made perhaps the only mistake I've ever made in my life. From within my arcane signet, I thrust the power of blue mana into his feeble mind. And when the dust cleared, I was convinced I rendered him brain dead. But to my horror, he arose. There was no blue mana in him, only its essence. The most cruel result. He couldn't counterspell, but the combos. By God, the combos he started to draw up. There was a terrifying beauty to it that you couldn't look away from. Like a car crash, or like watching a YouTuber you really, really hate get cancelled in real time. And now, with the potential that he sought and gained, he would surely find a partner in crime to achieve whatever heinous goals he wished to accomplish. And that partner in crime was half man, half bear, half pig. And with this pig man by his side, nothing would stop them from a swift conquest of the world. Well, except maybe, like, rug of smothering, or I don't know, like rule of law? That would probably do the trick too. Welcome to the Raggadragga profile. Specifically Nate's deck that has driven me mad every time we play it because he gaslights everyone in the room into hitting me while he builds his bastion of Mana Dorks and pain. Personally, if you want to combo and Gruul, I'm more predisposed to Wart Spellslinger, but that's a video for another time. Big Boy here is all about fat mana, fatter spells, and making your Mana Dorks morbidly obese. Through a truly heinous combination of Olive Garden spaghetti monsters and fetish artists, he might just take over the world. Him and his sidekick I made the mistake of leaving alone in a room with a combo guide. But hopefully this profile will not only give you the nitty gritty on how to stop this world domination strategy, but if you dig it, inspire you to give it a go yourself. Hey, before we start digging too deep, subscribe if you haven't. 99% of viewers aren't subscribed to the channel, so if you want to catch these insane deck techs on release and be in the know, hit that button and the bell to be notified of when these drop. But before we dig into the foundation, let's check out the main man himself. Raggadragga is a 4-mana, 4/4 human boar. He gives your creatures with mana abilities +2/+2, and whenever something with a mana ability attacks, you untap it. Funnily enough, that's not a choice, but most of the time that's fine, since it means you can hold up mana for during or after combat. That'd probably be fine on its own, but this is Gruul, the color with the express doctor's note from WotC that if something gets bigger and lasts more than 4 hours, you don't have to contact your doctor. Importantly, if you cast a spell that took 7 or more mana to cast, you untap a creature, give it +7/+7, and trample. Which means yes, if your opponent's trying to tax you out, you can punish the hell out of them for trying. The majority of cards in the deck can be categorized into dorks, utility, or big spells. So if Nate and his boar buddy want to conquer the world, you're gonna need resources, and that's where the Dork Defense Force comes up. The list is rocking a whopping 23 different Mana Dorks, more than half of which are able to add more than 1 mana, and 6 of them directly able to add mana in relation to their power, or in Selvalla's case, the power of something you already have on the board, which Raggadragga can play Steroid Dealer to in order to modify their power to insane heights and therefore stonks. Of course, the list runs your usual dorky suspects. Llanowar Elves, Delightful Halfling, Birds of Paradise all add 1 mana. The Nerd Squad, the Commanders of the Dork Defense Force, Selvala, Viridian Joiner, Kami of Whispered Hopes, Cradle Clearcutter, Heronblade Elite, Marwyn all get to add mana equal to their power. The deck also plays a bit of an elf bend, meaning we get to play elf mana enablers like Priest of Titania, Elvish Archdruid, and the infinitely monetarily cheaper Gaia's Cradle, Circle of Dreams Druid. Look, conquering the world costs money and the reserves don't have enough for something like this. A few more incognito dorks help offer alternative game plans if they get big enough through the Ragga pumps. Leafkin Avenger can shotgun opponents out, Plague Mirror offers wins through infect damage. That's another running theme of the list. The amount of ways to win are like a friggin' Hydra. You stop one method, 2 more pop up from out of the woodwork, and a 3rd burst from your plumbing. As for other ways of mana production during wartime, the Manabase is pretty typical for anything red-green. Some forests, some mountains, and some dual colors. Boseiju is your multi-format removal all-star for troublesome non-creature permanents. Dried Arbor is a bush and trenchcoat that gets untapped by Raggadragga. Garenbrig ramps out your dorks faster. Kessig Wolfrun and Lair the Hydra offer mana sinks on our lands to dump all of the mana we're making into creatures to make game-winning blows. Wolfrun in some cases can pump our super nerds even further to allow them to tap for even more mana, assuming we had some leftovers to pay for the initial red-green cost. New from Modern Horizons 3, Arena of Glory is particularly fairly strong in this deck, since with the density of positive Mana Dorks, giving them haste right away can help establish combos much faster. So with all this mana at our fingertips, what exactly are we ramping towards? The main plan is throwing Flying Eldrazi Spaghetti Monsters or the Dorks themselves, but call this board Bebop and Nate Rocksteady because they're also packing heat. And because of the Spaghetti Monsters, we'll never actually get our heat milled out as a small bonus to the already enormous pressure they already present. Comet Storm, Electro Dominance, and Crackle with Power all offer non-combat damage ways to burn out the table. Shaman of Forgotten Ways not only serves as a good early game mana dork, but the biotransference stapled onto it can be a game-ending life swing if an opponent's unlucky enough to have a barren board. Because the lifeblood of the strategy runs off of tapping creatures for mana based on their power, why shouldn't we play Colossification to effectively 3x our mana capabilities? Blast March provides card draw, Nyx Bloom provides triple mana production, Awaken the Woods makes more mana dorks that incidentally become 3/3s with Raggadragga on board, Vorinclex lets you double your mana while effectively having your opponents. Craterhoof is in here, but as with any deck on Craterhoof, you're never really casting him. He's what you get in the big box that says, I cast Finale for X is 10, now what? Functionally, every other big drop is here to not just be a big drop, but with Raggadragga chains into the next one. The deck works on the Dominoes from Hell axis, where if you can't stop the first big spell from being cast and the Raggadragga trigger from buffing a dork, it's much more unlikely you can stop the next big thing and so forth until you're just dead. The removal also helps to be in this bend towards being bigger to help our strategy. Blasphemous Act is a little weird in this deck. Raggadragga pumps based on the amount of mana spent, so if we happen to get Blasphemous down to 1 red, we don't actually get the pump out of it. However, it's there more because 1, we can get it to be extremely cheap, and 2, because Raggadragga pumps our board to be so huge, we can actually make our things big enough to tank the 13 damage. Azuri's Predation removes medium threats and sometimes keeps a board around, and Banefire is another kill spell with the benefit that it's almost always uncounterable since we can dump so much mana into it. But surprisingly, not everything is so massively costed, particularly the protection. Deflecting Swat is an obvious redirect that's been a staple since 2020. Heroic Intervention helps stave off board wipes, since this deck kinda lives or dies based on if the super nerds get to stick around. Other interaction that's comparatively low is Hull Breach for non-creature removal, as well as Beast Within and Chaos Warp for anything removal. We also get to run Clan Defiance of all things, as not just removal, but direct player damage in most cases. While we don't have any ways to tutor lands, we do have ways to tutor creatures, since frankly the creatures are this deck's lands. Green Suns, Finale of Devastation, Worldly Tutor, and the spicy pick Threats Undetected help grab the right mana dorks we need to. Wait, what's that rumbling noise?
Jesus Christ, that thing! Glacial Worm! Oh my god!
Jesus! Anyway, the deck runs a handful of walkers. Domri gives creatures uncounterable for our important pieces, and the mini anthem comes up occasionally to help power up our dorks. Freylease helps refill hands and fill the board with more dorks, and Nissa is another doubler, not as versatile until Yavimaya comes down, but versatile nonetheless, and the +1 lets the land creature actually get pumped by Raggadragga. Chances are, between the lack of Planeswalker's survivability and commander and the speed that this deck can not just operate at but win at, the Planeswalker ultimates are rarely ever going to matter. We won't get to our win cons without card draw, or better known to Raggadragga, the prayers of his acolytes as he tries to call down spaghetti monsters from up above. Beast Whisperer leads the prayers by giving cards even if someone counters our spells. Guardian Project gets them on ETB, while Frostfang and Toski get them on damage dealt. Commune with Lava is effectively a draw X spell in red that can sometimes proc Manbear Pig, and the Great Henge is another Guardian Project like that also provides incidental life gain and some additional power to the Super Dorks. Incidentally, the counters just add that extra little bit of survivability through damage-based board wipes. And finally, the last little bits of utility. Leyline of Abundance is a sick pregame action that can double our mana production from the get-go. Growing Rights is both potential creature tutoring, and unless shit has gone seriously south, it's almost always a Guy's Cradle that doesn't cost $600, mostly because Manbear Pig doesn't understand the concept of such material goods. Fires and Rhythm are haste enablers to allow the dorks to tap as soon as they touch down, and Savage Beating Entwined offers a more direct combat route while also proccing Manbear Pig. You may notice, this deck has no artifacts whatsoever, let alone a Soul Ring, but in the words of Ragga's right-hand man, he ain't no bitch. As a member of the No Soul Ring Society, yes, the most recent Horde list doesn't play it anymore, completely understandable, tap me up, homie. So, how do we win? To be honest, way more straightforward than Horde ever was. Sorry, buddy, but Manbear Pig is just going a much more direct route than the calculus ETB nonsense we pull off. Sticking a Super Dork is usually step 1, ideally Sylvala because she's also quasi-card draw. 2, get out Manbear Pig. Somewhere between now and step 3, we also need to probably get out a couple more dorks. And then step 3, start swinging big spells. Ideally, we bulldoze over the board before they can muster any sort of defense. If that doesn't work immediately, we'll still have this mana surplus to fall back on that enables solid removal like Ulamog or Emrakul that can then play as big swingers after they do their removal stuff. Now, there's the thing we gotta talk about. Of course, our ideal scenario, but to Nate and Ragga over there, it's their worst nightmare. What kind of counterplay can this strategy just not deal with? And you may be asking yourself, wait, Josh, why didn't you have this section in your Horde video? To which I reply, I want to show you guys how to beat up my friends, not me. Come on, keep up.
Hey folks, viewer mail time again. Here's one from Grand Arbiter Augustine, age 1000. Dear Raggadragga, aren't I interrupting your game-winning maneuver at the most inopportune time? Well, the answer is yes, Augustine. Yes, you are. Keep those counterspells coming.
But anyway, how do we stop this BLT barrage? The nerds. They may be super, but if we hit them at the right time, the deck falls to build any foundation. This goes to say for most of the dorks, but the nerds specifically, we want to make sure either never touch the board or don't stay for a full rotation. Like hell, to be honest, this piece is from Nate himself. If something like Selvala specifically makes it around the table, you're getting dumpstered. Hitting the early card draw. Beast Whisper more than anything, since if Guardian Project is the engine in play, it's a little easier to interact with. Whisper means that even if the creature is countered, Nate still gets his grubby little hands on another trading card. But more than anything, attacking the card draw mechanisms of a deck, like this one, is the fastest way to starve it of resources outside of a Yugimoto Draw of Destiny. In that case, hate to say it, but they're just built different. Board wipes hurt this deck a lot in general since it's just so creature reliant, especially if you can trick it so Pig Boy gets caught in the crossfire. 6 mana is nothing to sneeze at for your commander, especially if you need it online just to get the deck running. Bump up that commander tax like you're the US government. Lastly, I'd say hitting the big spells, but that's a little harder to manage. The numerous shuffling Spaghetti Eldrazi ensure that while you can counter a big spell in the moment, you can never really take them out of the game outside of an exile counter spell. Of course, if you can deal with the big Eldrazi, then act after the reshuffle, that might work out for you. But I have to admit, begrudgingly to Nate's credit, he's kept a very tight ship here. I've had I don't know if I want to say the pleasure of playing against this deck a number of times, but goddamn, it is a brick shithouse of a list. If you want to peep the entire list and roast Nate for his card choices, the Architect link is in the description. And speaking of Nate, you got any final words for the audience before they take the list for a spin?
I guess my final words would be this. Even though this is a combo deck, this is not a combo deck. This is a Gruul combo deck. What that means is that this does not take everlasting turns. This does its 5 or 6 cards combo setup and destroys and beats your opponents to living pulp, as all Gruul decks should always do. That is the essence of this deck, and that is what I want to leave my statement as. All right, thank you, Josh, for showing the world my deck, and thank you all for watching and getting through this video. Peace.
Well, that's Nate, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of Nate, you can check out his music channel, Toxicutter Music, right here on YouTube. The link for that will be in the description. Along with all of my stuff, from my Ultra Sleeves affiliate link where you can save $5 on your next tasteful inner sleeve order, my TCG player shop where you can buy your favorite cardboard directly from me, and my personal website where you can see all of the cool game dev stuff that I've worked on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. But until then, always remember to bolt the bird.